Good evening. All right. If you caught the end of choir practice, that's good. Choir is open. They let me in. They used to we even used to let Doug get in here, our other pastor. Sometimes we let you come up too, right, Dave? Anybody can come up and sing. All right, well, let's start out this evening with a congregational song, if you'd all stand. 115 in your hymn book. No words on the screen, so got to get a hymn book.
Yeah. Well, good evening. This is going to be a little bit of a different evening tonight. I know we're all getting used to the new schedule, and that's all going to be working itself out. It works out well. But tonight, what we'd like to do is we would like to share about the recent trip to Erwin. And so I invited the folks to come and share this evening. And so before they come, I just had a little bit that I wanted to say. And, in Matthew 25 and starting in verse 33, it says this, "And he, being Jesus, shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me." I was extremely proud what all I got to see in Erwin. I've seen a whole lot of people, some members here, some not members here. But everyone having been made a profession of faith, going and trying to spread that gospel hope, trying to love on people, trying to help people who desperately needed it. It made me extremely glad to be a part of this church. Extremely happy to be able to say I'm a pastor at Union McMinn Baptist. I want to say that I'm thankful for each and every one of you who were able to go. I know that some of them couldn't be with us tonight, and that's all right. I'm thankful that they were able to go and to help in the ways that they could. I've seen a whole lot of people do that in various aspects and regards. And that was a huge blessing for me. And I know that it was a huge blessing for those that we interacted with. We worked with a couple of churches. You'll hear more about those. There's going to be some pictures, and I know that there's plenty who want to share their experiences, and I don't want to take away from them, but I do want to express a great deal of gratitude towards Brian and Melissa because they really just headed that up for us. They made all the contacts. They took care of all the communications, tried to streamline everything for us, made sure we all had work to do, and so it worked out really well. And even when everything's got a little rocky or uncertain because we had to change the plans, they did as they asked all of us to do, and that is that they remained flexible. They were about as flexible as water, and they worked with everybody, and they led through that great. And so it was a huge blessing to me to work with you guys in that, and I really do appreciate everything that's going on there because you guys have helped facilitate all that. Church, if you weren't able to be there, you'd be proud. You ought to be proud of the way that Christ has impacted lives so that they have this kind of desire to visit those who are hungry, thirsty, that are naked, that are sick, and to help in all the ways that they can. That reflects a life that's changed by the gospel. And that makes all of us glad. So I want to invite all those that can and are willing, who were able to go to Erwin and who'd like to share tonight, to come on up here. You can make your way up here. You can sit in the choir, yeah. You don't have to stand. Thank you, Brian. That's a good point. I know we start getting a little, my knees is hurting. So you guys just come on up here. Look at you. Prepped. So that works out well. So what I'd like to do is, right now as they're getting into their seats, we're going to hear from them. And then this evening, we'll close out our service a little bit different. I'd like to close in an altar prayer tonight for the individuals that have been impacted by this. Lift them up specifically. Lift up the churches that we're working with. You'll hear more about them here in a moment. And then also, I would like for you to consider how God may want you to serve in upcoming efforts. There's going to be more, and it may be that you weren't able to go previously, but maybe you're able to go in the future, because there's going to be more trips, not just one more, but multiple more. And so just having your heart open to that. So before we hear from all of them, let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and God, we are thankful because you've given us this opportunity. Lord, you've given us a chance to come together and to hear how you've impacted our lives with the work and the efforts that we've been able to engage in. And Erwin, Lord, I pray, God, that you would be with us tonight as we hear from the different folks and their testimonies and experiences. Lord, that our hearts would be open to hearing how you may guide us as individuals and as a church in order to continue to glorify your name among people and spread hope and help meet needs. Lord, we thank you for everything that you have done, especially in giving us Jesus Christ, the motivation to go and do this type of work and help these communities, Lord, so that they hear about Jesus and they see Jesus in our lives and through these efforts. Go with us now, and I pray that you are pleased and glorified in this hour. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, Brian.
Let me start off by saying, and I've said this here before, but it's an honor to get to be a part of this group. Gid took us 1992 down to Hurricane Andrew and put a heart of service. God put that in our hearts then, and we've been trying to do that ever since. So thank you, Jay Gid, for being obedient back then. I want to just give you a quick rundown of what all we did. I know you're wanting to look at pictures, and that's perfectly fine. That is Unaka Baptist Church right there, and I'm going to focus on them a lot tonight. But we got there, and we spent the night at Appalachian Christian Camp. And this place is above and beyond what we imagined, anywhere we've ever stayed. It's top shelf. Very, very accommodating. Good to us. And no charge. Never one time did they say, you come here, you're bringing 59 people, we need you to pay this. Not one time. We got there, and it's just a great experience. And so we had, a few breakdowns on the way. While we were there, God just continued to bless. It was eye-opening to see everybody come together in a team effort and to get the job done, and it was great. Let me say this, I did not do this alone. There's lots and lots of people here that put in effort. And it, just as Gabe has said, it's not going to, we're not stopping. We're going to continue to go. But let me get into this real quick, and because I want them to be able to talk. We were based out of Riverview Baptist Church, and we learned in the weeks before, if you're not working through a church, there's a lot of red tape and maybe stumbling blocks that can happen. But if you are working through a church, you pretty much can get a green light to do whatever needs to be done. And so we knew that we wanted to do that, and it worked out very well. Riverview getting a lot of publicity and a lot of attention and a lot of donations. And I'm not going to lie to you. The other church, Unaka, we call it Dewey's Church because that's our contact person there. But it's up the river, probably just a half a mile or so up the way the river runs. But they're out there in the middle of nowhere on a dead-end road now because their bridge is washed out, and they are not getting a lot of spotlight. And we really feel like others tonight will tell you that we feel like God's placed it on our hearts to really focus and help them, and that's where our efforts are going to go to try to help them as much as we can. eventually it's going to get to where we're helping people at their houses. But right now, a lot of that work is at a standstill because they're waiting to see if the federal government's going to help them or not. And they're just, they've got their houses gutted down to stud walls, and they're waiting. And they don't know whether to spend their money or wait and see if the government's going to give them any money. And I don't blame them. And because it's very possible that if they do spend their money, the government come along and say, well, you're not eligible for our funding, and we're not giving you anything. So they're waiting. And it's frustrating is a good word to use for them. But we had teams that went to Riverview, and they done everything. There was some cleaning, there was some organizing, there were some with machines sifting through sand to find stuff and get the debris out of the way. I don't know if you would pay attention or realize what people store in storage units, but there was a storage unit right beside the church on a different property. And just imagine what everybody puts in storage units, and imagine that being buried in sand right beside the church. They found a Harley Davidson there buried 4 foot deep and was able to get it back to, not our group, but before we got there, but get it back to the rightful owner. And it was way up the river this motorcycle came from and was buried there. But they've got lots of stories to tell about what they found and what they seen. We had a group go to Unaka, and their fellowship hall had been completely washed away. Their basement had been flooded, and so we done work there, getting the prep work done to get it where they could build that back. We thought it would be able to salvage a lot of the materials out of their fellowship hall and reuse them. It was not possible. And it became very devastating to their congregation to watch their fellowship hall burn down. And we did that and helped them with that. And so we had groups go to Embryville Church of Christ, Spivey Mountain, that's Tumbling Creek, and we went there and rebuilt a county road. And there was a group of people there from Roanoke, Virginia, and they worked on one end, we worked on the other, and kind of met in the middle. And they just this week got that road completely completed. They had a guy going to donate the rock from Johnson City, and that fell through. Well, first the trucking fell through, then the rock, actually, the guy fell through, and so they were able to get that done this week. And so those people are driving on a gravel road now, not just dirt. And so we're thankful for that. We also had teams go to Cherry Grove and work at that church, which is a distribution center, and to Hewlin Baptist Church. And we had teams go to a house and gut it and work and tear it down to the stud walls. The breakdown that we had of wheel bearings caused me and Terry to stay. We were going to get our parts on Monday. The most of our group left Sunday morning, and some stayed till Sunday evening. But me and Terry went to North Carolina on Sunday evening. And if this is more for this group, but if you turn right out of the camp, it's just a hop and skip over Iron Mountain to North Carolina. And we seen stuff going toward Burnsville. You might have seen that on the news. There's been no talk of tornadoes. Me being in the timber business, I look at timber everywhere I go, and big trees this big around don't fall uphill, and they sure don't twist off. It's unreal, the devastation in North Carolina. And we saw stuff that, in my opinion, I think they'll never rebuild it. It's just devastating to look at the railroad, the roads themselves, businesses, houses just completely cut in half. I mean, you're driving down the road looking, and you can see all their stuff hanging in the closet, and half the house is gone. It's bad. And no doubt we'll end up going in North Carolina and working eventually. But we saw that, and then we're able to get some parts up in Virginia the next day, and we're able to come home on Monday night. And I want to tell you this, and then I'm going to sit down. Our team took money, and I'm not going to lie to you, the accommodations were so good, and they were so gracious to us that we talked amongst ourselves, and we gave Appalachian Christian Camp $1,000 of that money. They didn't ask for it. They really didn't want to take it. But I kind of told him, look, I'll light it. You know, you're going to take the money. And so he was very much gracious and took $1,000 of that ministry money. And we had a guy, our contact over there on the county road, that he's just, I don't know how to explain him. I'm just going to say it. He's a recovering addict who's been through the program, and I find myself continually drawn and migrating toward those people. Everywhere I go, I come in contact with somebody that's been an addict that I can minister to and try to talk to and befriend, and that's this guy. And he is really hustling. He's been backslid for a long time and has just came back to the Lord about 16 or 17 months ago. And he's super on fire, and he's working. I talked to him. It's funny. I talked to him Friday. I said, what are you doing now? He said, well, I'm going to North Carolina delivering stoves and generators. And we was talking, and I was driving down the road. He said, hey, wait, let me call you back. Just blow the tar out. I mean, he's just constantly live action. The Sunday we were there, his truck caught on fire. He still come to help us. You know, he's just, you never know with old Brandon. But I want to tell you this story. So we had given Appalachian Christian Camp $1,000, and so we had all this money, and me and Colton counted and counted and counted. Howie come in, he was our witness, and we was thinking, you know, we're going to get this divvied out, put in envelopes tonight on Saturday night. Sunday we're going to give this money out. We'll be ready to go home. You know, we're going to do this. And so I cannot tell you how overwhelming it was Sunday morning. We get over there to Tumbling Creek. Brandon finally gets there. I tell Terry, I said, get that money out of the glove box and let's pay him right quick. Well, that morning, that night we had counted, and it was $1,000 to him and $6,100 to Riverview, $6,144, just because we didn't have no money to make change, $6,144 to Unaka. And we counted lots of times. And Colton sent me a text with the numbers so I would have proof and not have to recount. And so we get over there, and Terry says, Brian, let me back up. Ezra says Sunday morning, hey, I forgot to give you this $300. My home church gave me this. I want you to give it to somebody. Well, to keep from getting the church money out of whack, really, I said, we'll just give that to Brandon, $1,300 instead of $1,000. We get there, and Terry, I told him, get that out of the glove box and give it to him. And so I'm over there giving him a speech while Terry's getting this money. He said, hey, I thought it was just $1,300. I'm like, well, that's right. We counted it last night. He said, there's $2,300 here. We're not bigger than God. God's big. So I'm telling him, you know, don't you give this money away. Don't you do, you know, this is for you. You've been out here buying your own gas. You've bought this truck. You've done this, this, and this. You use this for you. So I finally got him talked into that. Terry's like, it ain't $1,300. So I get over and start paying attention. And I'm thinking, how did we get this piled up? You know, we got this in 3 envelopes. And Colton's my witness. When we were counting that out on the dryer in our Appalachian Christian Camp the night before, there was no $2,000 band wrapped around this money from the bank. The bank, you know, gives you them bands on it when they count it. But that morning in my truck, this money was hid all night long. It was in a $2,000 band. Terry counted, I counted, we counted the church money. All I can say, God's big. That's all I can tell you. And if we'll just get out of the way, he'll show us how big he is sometimes. So we give him $2,300. We left there. We went to Unaka. We find them down there in the field where the fellowship hall's being burned. There's two guys, Dewey and one other guy, and we talk, and tell him, we want to try to help you. Our church wants to help you build this back. Talk about some time frame, that kind of stuff. And I said, we got some money here we want to give you. So Terry gets the envelopes out. We give him $6,144. He gets the full-blown can't help it. So I'm talking about come apart. Y'all don't have to do this. I said, our church wants to help you. We're a giving church. And it was just overwhelming. Another church member pulled up about the end of that, and it just got even more overwhelming. Then Terry Anderson starts telling, and I'm not going to tell that story. He'll tell that. I ain't. That's his story to tell. But we left there, and we went to church at Riverview, and they're having church downtown. It's kind of a coffee shop bakery deal, and then they got a back room. And another church has church there at 10 or 11. They have church there at 12, I think. But anyway, we went there, and they had a big crowd. And, they just had church. I'm not going to lie to you. I was pleased. I thought the preacher done a good job. He ain't as good as Gabe, but he done all right. And I thought he was probably goofball. I ain't going to lie to you. Just what I'd been around him, I didn't think he could preach his way out the bag. He don't hack or nothing. He done good. So we give them the $6,100, and they were very, very, very much thankful, appreciative, and it just seemed like the more I talked about it, the more I thought about it, God gave me this burden for Unaka. They're over there by themselves. There's 20-something people, members there. They're all old. They're on a dead-end road now, and they need help. And so came home, really thought last week at Brotherhood that we would be going next Friday to build this building. I feel like we can go there on Friday morning, frame this thing up, put it in the dry on Saturday evening, leave with them empty hull with stud walls and a roof on it, and that's our plan. That's our goal. We're going to do that. Now, I have to give you the update. I same as told Dewey, if there's ever a time I'm talking to you and I'm overstepping my bounds or you're tired of hearing me, I want you to say, shut up, Brian, that ain't how this works. He said, I'll do the same if you will. I said, all right. I said, straight up, Dewey. I said, you got any money to build this building? Nope. We done used what you give us on the basement. So now I'm going to tell you. I've done had one church call me and said, Brian, if we take up money at our church, will you take it up there and help somebody? I said, sure, we'll know where it's going right now. We're going to build a fellowship hall. So I'm not going to stand up here and say I need 10 guys to give $1,000 apiece. I'm not. I'm saying God will use it. But it's up to us to help them because they ain't got it. And I'd like to see us do that. They're going to be ready to build it. They got a block mason in their church. He's going to fix their block and get all of it lined up 3 weeks. So the first week or two, whenever, December, plan on going to Unaka and build that fellowship hall. That's our plan. We got a lot of work to do between now and then. Got a lot of praying to do. But I've talked to several people already. Said I'm going to talk to some people that's got money and tell them we need it. So that's my sales pitch to you. And just let God lead you. I'm done. It's your turn. Oh, sorry. I forgot about yesterday. So, through all this, my sidekick here, and I've told you this before, Melissa's on a disaster response committee.
I made his list.
Yeah, I don't usually have a list. She's on a disaster response committee with the Extension Office, and there's four of you.
There's 7 affected counties, and there's like 10 other, yeah.
4 people, right? on this committee?
Yeah.
Either way, we'll go with 4. And so, word has got around the extension office at UT and all over the state that Union McMahon's a working bunch. So the Clark County agent called and said, "Will you come help us?" Last Monday night, Brotherhood, we put the call out. We're going to go help some farmers in Clark County, Del Rio. And so 6 of us went yesterday, me and Terry and Sandra, Jacob Farner, Caleb Mosier, and Moose Mason. Took 2 Bobcats and a Mini X, and we went there, and I can tell you, I can't imagine going out there in my barn lot and everything I had stacked up for 40 years since 1989 being gone. This cat can't find nothing. It's gone. He's like, "I ain't got nothing to build fence with. It's gone." But his field is full. Full. Everywhere there's a tree in his pasture field. He lost 4 cows, but every tree in his field has got debris. It's unreal. Houses, 2 before, and I don't know where in North Carolina. This is on the French Broad River. We're on the Nullichucky in Erwin. But the French Broad River, Charlie, you ever heard them talk about twin bridges up there on the railroad? It's right above where we was at. There's an old wood yard there. That's where he lives. That's where we worked. I know all that because Moose was telling us about Norfolk Southern Railroad. But anyway, there's some plumbing contractor, a plumbing hardware store or something. This cat's got more rolls and unrolled rolls of PVC, black plastic pipe, everything you can imagine, scattered all over his place. And I mean, we were tearing these debris piles apart from these trees to get them out in the field so he could burn them. And there was a whole kitchen, the tile, still stuck together. I can't imagine. I mean, I thought I hit the jackpot. I was digging in that. Here's this hard shell gun case. I said, I found me something. It was empty. I was excited, man. I thought I found some rifle right here. No, just the case. And it's too mangled up to use. So anyway, the extension, Sarah Orr, the girl kind of lined us up yesterday. She was there all day long. We built fence. We tore out stuff. I mean, just worked and worked and worked. He lost all his hay. He's had hay donated back to him, fence supplies. So word's out that we're going to work. And so today at lunch, a guy wanting contacts. Last Monday, a guy called wanting contacts. If I don't care, but if somebody asks you, who do you go see to work up there, tell them call me. I got a big long list, and I'll spread the love. But there's plenty of work to do. Plenty of work to do. And it's our people. They're just like us. And everywhere I went, I'd have said, we're here because Jesus, our church sent us. They trust us to get out and work in their name. And I'd like to think if our stuff was washed away, Yuns would be down here helping us. So, go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, wait right here for just a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is the most ordered thing that I've ever seen. Gabe talked a little bit this morning about how God's a God of order and orders our steps. Well, while the storm was happening, and you're seeing things on TV and you're seeing things on TikTok, and at our house we had a Bobcat that wasn't working and a truck that wouldn't run. And I had somebody that I thought was going to wear 3 rocking chairs out and rock through a window saying, Mama, I got to go. I got to go. Somebody can't find their fencing bucket. People are losing their kids. They can't find their cows. I got to go, but I can't go. Right? And one of my spiritual gifts is the gift of faith. And I said, Brian, just hold on. Your time will come. But if you rock that rocking chair through that window, we have problems. So just Just give it a minute. So the minute came. Okay, you're done. That's all. Okay, you're welcome. Okay. For everything to come together as quick as it did from the time that Brian came home and he was like, we're going, it was like 2 weeks. And in that moment, we were sleeping in tents and in the car. And I was like, ooh, Nellie, this is going to be a stretch of my faith. And then when my kids said, Mama, I'm out of school, I'm taking off from school, I'm going, I'm like, ooh, I can't leave her in a tent by herself with her daddy. Ooh, okay. So then, I asked a lot of my friends, I was like, now y'all pray about this, because I love Jesus and I love people, but I don't know that I can do a tent. And I think if we were all honest with ourselves, most of us wouldn't like to do a tent, and I'm just being real. So we're just praying about it, and then we had a place to stay, and then we had another place to stay, and then we had the best place to stay we've ever stayed on a trip. And that's the first miracle. There are 1,000, but it was just, man, it just worked out. Also had we had one breakdown in Knoxville, and then Brian's truck broke down in Greenville, and he tells us, hey, my truck broke down, and I said, I was looking at my text last night where I texted Jacob Horner, I said, do you want us to go on or wait? And he said, go on. Well, we got on up to Gray, which is about 30 minutes away, and then he calls, and he's like, you're going to have to go here and get parts and bring them to me. I was like, okay. So I went to Joe, I went to Terry, I went to Gabe, and poor Gabe, I'm just like, and he's like, okay, right? Gabe was like, I said, I'll text you. I'll text you. Okay, so then Kendall and I get the parts, and we're driving, the last I looked, 92 down the interstate, because her daddy was broke down on the side of the road, and he needed his parts then. I mean, it was a lot of prayer. So no tickets, no crashes, get everything fixed. There were still people down there with them. Then we get there and we're late, and I was like, okay. Well, I had a chart, and obviously we should have just thrown the chart out the window because the plan's not working the way the plan was supposed to work, and we had missed lunch, and that was a little stressful, and I'm like, it'll be fine, I got a bag of apples in my car, we'll figure it out, and we'll get in the groove. And then this lady came to us, and she's like, can anybody go to do this demolition on this house, and can anybody go to help at a distribution center? And we were like, okay. So Melissa Reagan and Allison Mason and Christy, my sister-in-law, went to do this house demolition. And y'all, it wasn't just like, we're going to take the pictures off the walls. They took the whole house to the studs. I was like, whew, I'm glad y'all handled that, because that's a lot. But they did it, and they handled it. And me and Kendall and April and Libby Jennings went to Hewlin Baptist Church. And as we pulled in, this lady came out of the building, and there were people with her, and they were shutting the doors to the building behind them. And I'm not really intimidated or scared by a lot of situations or a lot of stuff, but I was a little bit nervous, like, ooh, mercy, what have we gotten into? And then I kind of glanced, and they were all behind me, and we were like ducks in a row. I was like, well, great, I'm going out first. But so I said, are you Linda? And this lady said, yeah. I said, okay. I'm Melissa. There's a picture of us in a minute after we became best friends. I said, I'm Melissa, and she said, well, how can I help you? And I said, no, we came to help you. April sent us. And then she said, oh, April's my sister. I thought you were a 4-letter government organization, and I was fixing to blah, 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 and that's not something that needs to be repeated in church. And I was like, no, ma'am, no. I work for UT, and she goes to UT, and she works at Farm Credit, and she's in high school. But we can leave if we need to. No, come on in. So, people are stressed, and they're stressed, and she was through this church, and I learned through her story that she had started, we walked into this building, she'd had 2 tractor-trailer loads of supplies delivered that day, not just organized supplies, but like mystery boxes. So a box might have a baby bottle and a can of corn and a can of tomatoes and a sucker in it. And open all those boxes and put them in order so she could then recreate all these food boxes. And we made boxes of food, boxes of things, which is what you go get at the Walmart, and boxes for babies. And I learned that the day after the storm, she and her daughters cut themselves out with chainsaws and started with supplies out of a shed in her backyard. And then she just started helping who she could. And then she was getting so much stuff, she moved to this church. And her distribution has grown to the point that for 2 days, and the next day, Katie went with us, and Jocelyn Torbett, and Allison and Melissa and Christy went with us the next day. Trucks would pull up all day, and they would say, hey, we came from Cincinnati, and we heard you could finish our load before we go on to North Carolina. Where do you send us? And then a truck would pull up and say, hey, we heard you can get this to people. Unload, load, unload. It was like wash, rinse, repeat the whole time. And then Linda said, I need you to go on a run. And I'm like, okay. She said, but I'm not sending you to North Carolina because you'll get lost. And I'm like, you're probably right. I will. So she sent us a 45-mile drive, which used to be 10 miles, but the roads were out, to a farm to help some workers who can't work now because the whole farm is washed away. They have a house, but they have babies that they can't feed because they don't have work anymore because everything's gone. So, golly, just so much stuff, so many cool things about being with Linda. Through my work and through our Junior Livestock Association, we have sent, I don't know, I think 10 or 12 loads of supplies, not counting the hay up there. I got home and I found out that all those loads of supplies that have been coming, that we've been collecting at the co-op and Tractor Supply in Athens, have been going to Linda. Y'all, that's the Lord. Nothing more than. I learned that a doctor who had traveled with that group had treated Linda's feet 3 days after the storm because she had blisters where the junk was eating her feet. So when I sit back and I think, man, I mean, this is unreal. Everything just all hooked together. So talked to her a few times since then, and Melissa just asked me last week, when are we going back to help Linda? I'm like, we'll be back. But all our people work great, and, when I would be like, we need you to go here and you to go here, there was never a question of like, well, what am I doing? It was just, okay, we're going. So thank you guys, because y'all made it easier. So that's all I have on my list. Thank you.
I'd like to also say thank you to Brian and Melissa. That's a lot to put together in a short time. And so I really appreciate you, Brian and Melissa. That's a big load to take on in such a short time. And sometimes when you get the opportunity to go to places like this, you'll come back with some stories. But I think the one that'll stand out with me, we was waiting there Saturday afternoon, and Clyde was going to share his testimony with us, and it's a wonderful testimony. He's 76. He's 76 years old. Wonderful testimony. But we was waiting on Brian and Terry and all of them to come off of a mountain. They was up there working on the road somewhere, and they'd had some breakdowns, and they got back late, and I told Clyde the afternoon was kind of getting rearranged about sharing his testimony. And I said, well, I wonder if they need something or something else is going on. And he said, well, let's run up there. And I said, well, how far away is it? And he said, it's 6 or 8 miles. And I told Kenny, I said, well, just tell everybody, we was all talking. I said, just tell everybody to hang around here a few minutes till we, get something pulled together here. So we got in Clyde's truck. As soon as we pulled out in the parking lot, he said, I'm out of gas. And I thought, oh, my Lord, Clyde. And I said, well, turn around, we'll drive my truck. And he said, no. So we run up the road to the gas station, and we was sitting there at those pumps, and we was talking about the Lord. And he said something. And sometimes you'll hear something that'll just burn into you, and you'll never forget it. He told me something that burned into me. He said, I don't care nothing about streets of gold. He said, that don't mean nothing to me. He said, I don't care anything about a mansion. I don't need a mansion. But he said, here's what I do care about. He said, I cannot wait to get there and kneel down in front of my Lord and say thank you. Now, boy, that burned into me. But I'm thankful to have got to go on a mission trip. It was a real blessing. And we worked. That was just a given. I was very proud, and the fellowship is just wonderful. I love Christian fellowship. I got a longing for it now, and I think any Christian would. But another story I got out of this was sleeping. Now, when you get me away from home first night, I'm not going to do too good sleeping. But we got up the next morning. I ought not tell this. He'll love to kill me. But we walked out, and there's this guy looked at me, and he said, "You're taking me to the Walmart tonight." And he said, "I'm going to take an unholy dose of NyQuil tonight." And he walked up to one guy, and he said, "I will never sleep in the room with you again." But anyway, to finish up the story, me and JL and this guy was walking up through there, and I think he had talked to Sierra, his wife. She said, "You better not do that. You may not wake up." And he said, "One could only wish." Well, JL, he ended up sleeping on top of JL one night, and as soon as we all woke up, JL said, "I think a bear got in the room last night." So he may have been part of that, keeping that room awake all night, JL. I don't know. But anyway, what a blessing and what a privilege to be a part of such a wonderful thing. And you know, out of all things I've acquired in my life, nothing holds a candle to something like that. The greatest possessions I have lie right here. Not in things that get laying around my house, it's withering away. What a true joy it is to go and do something like that with your fellow Christians and brothers. And let me tell you, they all worked. It's just like Gabe said. And let me tell you something, this man right here was right in the middle of it. You know, tooth and nail. He just right in the middle of it. And I'm just, makes you appreciate, you know, what you've got and what we've got here. So thank you very much, church.
Not good at this, but when I heard about all the storms that hit North Carolina and Tennessee, I prayed, "Lord, just use me. I love to help, and just put me where, you know, I can be used." So I started researching of ways that, you know, I seen that we had, it's called TEMA, and you could go through them and volunteer, and they had like these schedules, you know, that you could, it was like 3-hour blocks and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, "Lord, I don't know about that." Because at the time I didn't know if I could find help with Ida or, you know. So I was like, I'm a little skeptical of that. I'd like to go with the church, especially ours, and I'd ask around and so me and Lisa was in the kitchen. I can't remember. I think it was Pastor Appreciation, and we were talking about it, and I said, "Yeah, I've been praying. I'd love to go." And she said, "Well, I've heard that Brian's gonna try to get something together. I'll let you know if I hear anything else." And I was like, "Okay." And and then I was like, "Well, Lord, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with Ida, and David has to work, and I don't really want to go by myself, and I don't like to drive." And but I, you know, so I just kept praying, but the good Lord worked it all out. It was just amazing. It was amazing how God just worked it all out. Me and Landon was able to go, and and I had someone to help me with Ida, but I was like, well, if something happens, I need to get back home, so I'll just drive, I guess. So when we got there, well, first of all, on the way there, I just want to give praise to Brian and Melissa. They made sure I wasn't ever left behind, because we sort of kind of had Scott had a blowout on his trailer, and we just dispersed every which way, because I was like, "I think that's our people." Landon's like, "Yeah, it is." And so I started following Jack and Veronica, and so I thank my church family for taking care of us and keeping us so we don't get lost, because I'm telling you, I can't find myself out of a brown paper bag if my life depended on it. And but when we got there, they were like, well, we need this group to go here, we need a group to go here, we need a group to go there, and we need someone to take us. And I said, well, my car will hold 8 total. I said, so we can pile up in it if you want to. And Landon's like, Mom, are you sure about that? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, you don't know where you're at. And I said, well, we'll figure it out. And so we went to Cherry Grove Baptist Church, to that distribution center. And when we got there, we just asked where they need us to go. And they said they need a lot of help in clothing and blankets and towels, that type of thing. And they sent us to, they had like 18-wheeler truck trailers, and they had them packed full of stuff. And they said, go over there and to that trailer and look for Pat. Her name is Pat. And I was like, okay. So I went and talked to Pat, and she's a sweet lady, and she's a veteran. So I got to talking to her, and she says, well, every day I say, I'm not going to come back today. She said, I've been coming for 2 weeks. I live in Kingsport. I drive about 45 minutes each way. She said, but I'm just going to keep coming until the Lord tells me not to. And I said, well, I'm proud of you. I said, well, we're here to help you. Me and Julia went to that one. And so the first day we worked until about 4-ish, and we're like, well, ain't much here to do. Tomorrow, I don't know where we're going to go. So we woke up, or that evening, Brian said, they need us back. And I said, okay. So we went back, and I thought, I don't know what we're going to do. We've done quite a bit, because Landon was the muscles. He helped load and unload stuff. And when we got there that morning, they said, oh, we're so glad you're back. And I said, well, what are we going to do today? And they said, right after you left, we had this large horse trailer come in from Maine, and it was loaded with brand new stuff, like clothes. Well, it's mainly jackets and blankets and towels, and pallets and pallets of water and food, because they were low on food the night before, and they told me to put out on Facebook things that they needed. They needed like pinto beans and stuff like that. So it was just amazing how all that the Lord just took care of it. And then another trailer came in. It was from, I believe it was from Mississippi. And I got to talk to the young lady and her family, and she's like, well, we moved here. We're not far from here, but I'm originally from Mississippi, and my mom's church got wind of it, and so they gathered up a lot. We went up there and got it and brought it back in our horse trailer. So we helped them unload all that, but it was a great time, and I enjoyed spending time with my fellow sisters, and we had a lot of laughs. Me and Veronica about laughed so hard we lost the lung. Evidently, my sheet that I brought shrunk in the wash machine, in the dryer or something, and it was like a toddler sheet, and I'm trying to put it on this, on the mattress, and I could not get it on, and there's a video. She said, this is hysterical, and I said, well, just help me get it on. But yeah, we had a good time, and Brian and Melissa, I just thank you for the opportunity, and Lord, I just thank you for the church, the prayers. Thank you.
There was a lot of things that I took away from this trip, but the thing that I enjoyed the most was getting to know our people here at this church. We was in a group with me, Buddy, Howie, Buddy's grandson Hunter, and Austin Bird, which is Hannah Burns' fiance. And me and Austin worked back to back the entire weekend. And we was up in the top of this church working, and I didn't know Austin other than he's Hannah's fiance. And by the end of the day on Saturday, I felt like I'd known him my entire life. But just getting to know our people was the thing that I enjoyed the most. And I talked to Buddy, got to talk to Buddy some, and his grandson Hunter. Hadn't talked to him in a while. And then on the way back, Maggie had to leave early, so my ride had left, so I had to find a ride. And I rode back with Ezra and Adrian. And I talked to Ezra and Adrian a couple times on Sundays, Wednesdays, but never really just gotten to talk to them. And the entire 3-hour car ride home, we got to talk and know about each other. So that's what I took away from this trip, other than getting to help people up there, was getting to know our people at this church, and just being proud of this whole entire group. Thank you.
Legs going to sleep. Looking at these pictures, they don't do justice for what really happened up there. The amount of water that come off of these mountains, they were saying it was 6 feet over the rails of this bridge like we have out here crossing the interstate. Just massive amount of water. And the pictures, you see the devastation, you see the things that, that we've taken the pictures of, but to see it firsthand, it's breathtaking, it's unreal. I spent my 2 days at Unaka. I met Dewey, and Dewey's, I just clicked with him. He just, he had stories. I mean, we just got to sit and talk, and, about the devastation, what had happened, but, got his whole life story, where he grew up, not far from there, back in a little old cabin, gathered back in the mountains, and just a good guy, just really took a liking to him now, and a lot of these pictures shows where we were working in their fellowship hall, how it got washed downstream, and just the power of that, being able to do that, to set this off in this landowner's field, and just filled it like with 2 foot of sand, and there the fellowship hall, and he had, I know Dewey had high hopes of salvaging, everything out of this to try to reuse later. And, our team, well, I know we was going to try to do the best we could, and so we took the tin off of it, and there was a thing of shingles. We had to take all the shingles off of it, and we were going to start disassembling it as we came down. And structurally wise, it was dangerous. But we wanted to do and succeed for him. But as more we tore into it and seen, it was a mess. We ended up having to burn it to get rid of it, while we was there to help. And boy, say that a man's action speaks louder than words. To see this man when this, and it was his decision for us to do this, but to see it, the expression on him, man, it touched me. It just, they just lost their entire fellowship hall, and he said just last month, that they'd had their dinner and all there, and to think this tragedy that would come and take it, and, just left them with nothing with it. I got to talk, it was unreal. Got to talk with the landowner where this fellowship hall ended up settling. He took me off and showed me, he said, look, he said, this was my pasture field. Off down below this tree line, he said, this hole down through here was my hay field. Guys, there was nothing. There was no topsoil, nothing. left his hayfield, it was just a rock bed of like that river had been there the entire time. It took everything. So, yeah, as Brian and them were saying, there's a ton of work to be done. And, you know, it's just going to take months, years to ever get it back to some type of normalcy. And, but Brian, y'all did do a wonderful job on the amenities. Man, you couldn't ask for a better place to stay, clean, good hot showers. Yeah, the work was hard, but when you look at it and you think, you know, Lord, put me where you can and use me, and you know, I felt like he did. He apparently likes me on roofs, because when we went, we put 10 on up at Clear Creek, and this time we were taking 10 off, you know, so, but, you know, it's hard work, but, you know, praise God, we just get through it. Pray for those folks.
Me and Kenny's thinking about opening up a roofing job when we, on the side, little side job. We're getting good. Like he said, when we were up there in Kentucky, they had me on the roof, and then the same thing there, back up there, I was back on the roof again. So me and Kenny's thinking about opening up a little roofing job if anybody's interested. We're getting good at it. No, I was thinking, I've been and Heather started out down at Hilltop in Riceville. We was down there about, I'd say, probably 13 years or more, and all my time down there, it was a good little church, but we went on one little mission trip, and they called it a mission trip, but it really wasn't a mission trip, because it wasn't going out and helping people like we have here, and I just think it's something that I've not even been here a year yet, and I've already been on 2 mission trips, and both of them were helping people and stuff. I think that's what church is all about. And I was talking to my dad about how this church is coming up on 200 years, and I said I know the reason why this church has made it 200 years, because it's a serving church. It'll go out into the communities and help when it needs help. Just like we just got back and we're already talking about going again, you know. I thank God that I can go out, that he's given me. I know some people can't because of their work, but he's blessed me, and I can just take off pretty much whenever. And like I say, I just like to thank the church for what they do, and I just enjoy being a part of it.
I know everyone keeps bragging on Brian and Melissa, but you did a great job. And if you don't know that by now, then there's something wrong. When we first got there, before I even start, I just want you to tell you the theme that come to my mind while we were there is, I know where my help comes from. It comes from the Lord. And everywhere we went, I said I wasn't going to cry, but here I am. Everywhere we went, people knew where their help was coming from. And when we first got there, it was kind of a chaotic thing that was going on, but it all come together. It always usually is on a mission trip. There's something crazy that happens. And our crazy story is that Jack and I took the trailer that was not supposed to go to Cherry Grove. So I'm just going to claim that Jesus needed it there for some reason. And we unloaded it, and as we were unloading it, the people were writing stuff down, the stuff that was coming out of the trailer. They were writing all the stuff down and trying to keep a tab of everything that was coming out, and then they would sort it and organize it and put it in places so that they could get it out to the community. And I got to talking to some of the folks there, and I asked the lady, I said, so how does all this work? And she says, well, you know, people bring stuff in, we unload it, and then people come and they get stuff. And I saw people coming, and we were just loading their cars up, and they were taking stuff actually to the people who needed it. And she said, that one lady that you just saw load up, she takes it to another lady who has donkeys that she loads up and takes up the mountain. This is 4 weeks into this, y'all, and they're still taking donkeys up the mountain to these people who have nothing, who need resources and things. And then the second day that we were there, we got to go to Embryville. I can never say that name right, so I had to have her tell me 1,000 times. And when we went to Embryville, we met a guy there named Rick. And when we first got there wasn't really a whole lot to do except sort some clothes. And Rick said, you know, there's not really a whole lot to do. I'm going to be taking this food out to some of the folks. Do you want to go with us? I said, absolutely. We want to go with you. We were wanting to meet some of the folks and hear the stories and love on them and pray with them and hug them and encourage them in any way that we could. And the first place that they took us to was a little place called Little Germany. And in Little Germany, the whole road had been washed out, and it took them 3 weeks to get the road back together to get to Little Germany. And in Little Germany, the only communication they had was ham radio, and one guy had it. And if he had not had it, that little town, you know, nobody might not even know that they even existed. But the community come together, and he had a generator. The one guy in the little community had a generator, and everybody brought all their stuff to that one little community and used that generator to keep them alive until they could get back there to them and rescue them. And I thought that was just an amazing story of how people just come together and work together in hard times. And but when we first started driving back through Little Germany, you could see military. It was the National Guard or Army? National Guard was there, helped cleaning up debris, and you could see the military suits just everywhere, and everybody was coming together. Big construction equipment was there to help clean up some of the debris and stuff. And then we left Little Germany and went to Jonesboro. And at Jonesboro, we met a little guy, I think his name was Dave Harris, 76 years old. And he said, come here, I want you to see this. When we got there, you know, we started talking to him and told him who he was and where we was from, and gave him some water and some money. And did you give him Bibles there? And Bibles. And do y'all want to say anything on this one? Go ahead. Okay. So he said, I want you to look right here. And it was a piece of property that was bigger than this church and this churchyard. And it was just nothing but mud. There was nothing there. He said, this is where my home once stood. There's nothing left. I have nothing. He's 76 years old. He's a veteran. He served in one of the wars. And he said, you know, I'm not going to give up hope. I know where my help comes from. That's where that theme's coming from. And he says, I'm going to be strong. I'm military background, and we are going to rebuild, and I'm going to praise God through it all. And if that don't do something for your heart, you know, I don't know. There's something wrong with you. Anyway, he also said that my neighbor come over to my house and knocked on my door and said, you need to get out, and you need to get out now. And he was already up to his knees in water, And his wife was crippled, and she couldn't hardly get out, but the neighbor hossed her up and put her in the truck, and they got to drive away. And he said, but my neighbor, who lives right behind me over here, he had worked a little bit later and got home a little bit later, and he got all of his family out. But as he was coming off of the back porch broke off, and he went floating down the river, and it killed him. He died. And then he said, now my neighbors back here on the other side of me, they're missing, and they're still not found. And all you could see, the debris piles were bigger than houses as you drove through this community. When they had scraped the roads and everything, the debris piles were bigger than houses. You could see tricycles laying places. You could see just household items laying everywhere, bricks, just anything you could think of was laying around. It was just horrific. Cars just crumpled and crushed, made into nothing. And then we went a little farther on down the road. You want to tell this one?
It was amazing at how many people that had lost everything that we encountered were praising the Lord. They were so thankful to be alive. And like Kenny said, these pictures don't do it justice, but this one area that we were in where it wasn't just houses damaged and things ruined and gone, but the grass was gone. I mean, everything was gone. It didn't look like a beautiful neighborhood that had been there for years and years ever existed. And I love going and talking to them and letting them tell their story and, witnessing to them. Love that. We kind of split up. There wasn't but a handful of people out walking around on their property, but Hannah and I happened to go up to this one man, and no one else was around us other than the guy that was with him. And we tried talking to him, and he was just beside himself still because a lot of his belongings were laying around. He had been a hunter all of his life and had been to Africa and had a lot of animals stuffed in his home, so some of those were laying around. He was a gun collector, and his safe was still there, had 19 guns in it when the water came through, but looters had came, and before he got to it, and had cut it open and took his guns. But he said there were several houses right on this road. I've been neighbors my entire life, and I think he was like 79. And he said a husband and wife drowned. Another neighbor committed suicide because he thought he was going to drown. And another one of his friends' neighbor down that same road had a heart attack trying to get out. And I asked him how he got out because he said by the time he got out, it was almost to his waist. And he got on his bobcat and went up the hill and survived. But it's just hard to even imagine what these people are going through and the long, long road they've got. But to see this in person and just imagining how that happened so fast. Nothing. I mean, you have nothing. So they need prayers. Don't give up. Keep praying for them, and hopefully we can continue to reach out and help in any way we can.
Now, at the place that she's talking about, it was a historical area. It was old historical homes that were just gone. And when I talked to Rick and Frida, who were the faces of the community, these are sisters and brothers in Christ who would go out and help the people in the community. But they said that the river got up to 60 feet tall because the river bank itself was 40 feet, and it got over the tops of the two-story homes, which meant it got up to 60 feet. And she said that river wasn't just a river, it was raging, and it was just horrific. The river itself now doesn't even flow the way that it used to flow. It has a different route, and everyone in the community is heartbroken because the once beautiful place that they would go and have family time is gone. And it's changed, it's not even the same. But he said that what caused all of that was there's 6 bridges before you got to the rock quarry, and each one of them began to break. and when it got to the Rock Prairie Bridge, it became like a dam, and it dispersed, and it became miles long, and went through communities and just destroyed everything. And these folks, they need your prayers. I asked you to pray for Rick and Frida specifically. He had knee surgery, and he has been one of the faces out in the community. Just pray God will help heal him quickly so he can get back out there and do the work that he's been doing and helping these folks. And just continue to pray for those folks. They need it. You got anything?
Yeah, I pretty much had the same experience as Michelle and Veronica. I will say that Friday night we got there, and myself and Colton and Kenny and Gabe were out on the porch talking. This is kind of funny, but Colton said, "Gabe, this is Maggie's first mission trip," and I was like, "Well, it's my first like non-local mission trip," and Gabe goes, "Well, it's not foreign." So I was like, "Well, okay." So they bugged me about that for a while, but no, it was a very humbling experience and very eye-opening as well. The older guy Veronica was talking about, I took 2 New Testament Bibles. It was actually 2 the Gideons had given here, and because he was without everything, and so I just felt led to give those to him, and you could just see the expression on his face. He just kind of held them and looked at them, and he told us that he was planning to go to church that weekend. It sounded like he had been out for a while, but it was just a blessing to see, and I left not wanting to leave, hoping to go back. So.
Brian put me on the spot to tell this story, so I'm gonna have to tell it. Last time I was up here, I was talking about a set of trusts that somehow the Lord's put in our possession to use on a mission trip. And so we're standing there that morning, Sunday morning, at Unaka giving Dewey that money. And the fellowship hall at Riverview has got washed off too, and so it's on a concrete pad. The other church is on block foundation, which it has to have some sort of floor structure other than concrete. And I didn't pay no attention. About a week before I left, they called me and told me that, asked me if I wanted some floor trusses that somebody had made, didn't take, whatever. So here we back in the trust business again, I guess, but so I'm standing there, I hadn't even thought nothing about those trusts, and I'm standing there, and he got to talking about the block, needing to get a block layer to do it, and I looked at Brian, and which poor old Dewey, he'd done started squalling whenever we give him that money, and so I was done, that kind of touched anyway, but I about got the King Hepits myself after he did, because the Lord said, well, you got the floor trusses, probably it'll fit, and they're easy to adjust the length of them or whatever, as long as you make them shorter, and so, the Lord's come through again, just out of the blue, just nothing. I'm not so sure they're going to work on that project, but there's a project somewhere that the Lord has. I was talking to a guy a few minutes ago, and Mo will appreciate this because they may go to a different place, but we've not worked that deal out either. But I told that guy on the phone a while ago, I said, the Lord's given them to us for some reason, so I don't know where they're going to go, but wherever he wants them to go, that's where they're going to go. If they work up there, they do. They don't, but it's still just amazing what he can do, just like Brian was talking about that money for that guy. And, I asked you to pray about those trusts so they go where they're supposed to go, for one. But for two, pray for old Brandon. We gave him $2,300, and I ain't sure $2,300 didn't pay for that truck. And he bought this dump truck to use, thought he'd get a job working for the construction company that started cleaning up this mess through the state or whatever. And I don't know. We got some stuff equipment we'd call for farm use only. I won't know that that'd be for farm use anyway. It's, I don't know, $2,300 didn't buy that truck. It's an old gas burner, and Brian always tells this story about a Detroit motor that used to be in them old trucks, and you had to mash your finger in the door so you'd be mad enough to be able to drive it. So that's about the way that truck is. But he's been using that thing for however around in that community and delivering stuff and hauling dirt and doing whatever for free. I mean, just whatever the Lord's told him to do. And so I'd say that's why we end up with the extra $1,000 to give him. And just amazing how God can work if you just pay attention and, you know, do it. So pray for about the trust for me if you don't care, and pray for Brandon. And I mean, all those people's in a need, but I appreciate the fact that God's people is in that area working, and we get to go take and help them. So, thank you.
Usually big long pause means we're done when we do these things, but there is one other thing I want to tell you. And I just sit back sometimes, let the Lord work, and sometimes I get in a big way and get ahead of him and mess it up. But was it Thursday night, Mama, that Adrian called about doing the prayer journal, or Friday? Wednesday night. She texted or called, I don't know. Anyway, said, would it be okay if I done a daily prayer devotional journal type thing, you know, for you, for this trip? Listen, well, oh yeah, that's fine. So 6-something in the morning over here on Friday, she's going car to car and handing these things out. It just overwhelmed me. I mean, bunches of work. I'm not saying she done it on school time. But she done all kinds of work, drawed all this out, printed it out, laminated some of it. Well, do what?
During the ball game Thursday night, while Ezra was coaching, she had people in the stands helping her.
Well, either way, Lord worked it out, and I just got home and I thought, what is that? It's laying there on the console. What is that? Well, there it was. I revisited it. Well, I took my little laminated card out and I put it right up there on my sun visor. And all week long this week, it just spoke to me. Spoke to me. And so I want to brag on her for just a second. Good job. Good job. We got a real asset there. She's an international mission person at times, you know. Our IMB. Let me get it right. But this group done really, really good. And I know some of you are right now heartbroken you didn't get to go. You're going to get to go back, because we're going back. I can't give you a definite date. I can tell you we're going to wait 3 weeks till they get the block done. Then we're going to really get in high gear trying to go. Jay Gidd asked me this morning, said, what's the hold up? When we going? He didn't get to go last time. He's burning to go. And so when you go, we're going to stay at Camp ACC, Appalachian Christian Camp. If nothing don't change, you'll need bed covers for a twin-size bunk bed. And you'll need to, this may fall through, but more than likely, you'll need to buy your breakfast. And we'll get them to feed us the rest of the time. That's the way it worked this time. I mean, God just continues to bless and bless and bless. And so, who knows? 3 weeks from now, we may have $50,000 to take up there and buy materials. I hope to the Lord we don't have to haul it. I don't know if you've ever been around one of them Fords when it blows that pipe off under the hood going to the turbo, but I thought, whoa, golly, every wheel on it's blowed off. Going up there yesterday, just about level road, tar blowed out. Terry says that's why it's got a spire beside it. Let's go. kept trucking. So, we've been way blessed. Been all over the world, and God just keeps continuing to give us opportunities to get out and share. Did we see anybody come to know Christ? No. But we can go up there and build something for them to share it in. And that's our goal. Anybody else burning to say something before we? Gabe? It looks like we're done.
What I'd ask is that we gather here in the altar, if you're able and you can. And we'd like to pray for Erwin and also pray about how God may use you to go and serve in the upcoming projects. But we want to close out this evening in prayer, lifting up Unaka Baptist, lifting up Brandon, lifting up Riverview, and all these various individuals that have been talked about tonight and mentioned. I'm thankful for everyone that was able to participate. Again, thankful for Brian and Melissa heading this up. Did a wonderful job, represented Jesus well, represented the church and our community well. So let's be thankful towards that. But we definitely want to take this opportunity to corporately pray together about this and lift these folks up as these make their way. Brian, whenever everybody gets down here, I'd ask you to take us to the Lord in prayer.